Hey guys, welcome back to the Wild Courage podcast. Today I have my buddy Austin Cuddie Hudson on, and thanks for being here, bro.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we met through a mutual friend, Pat Puckett.
Yep, absolutely.
You went and spent some time with him, and then I guess you probably told Pat you were moving up this way, and he kind of hooked us up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, Pat and Deb have been awesome to my wife and I. And as soon as he found out I was coming up this way, he's like, "You got to go meet Jeremy." So I reached out to you, and you immediately were like, "Let's go visit, man." And yeah, that's all. The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. We had a couple-hour cup of coffee and kind of got to know each other. And since then, you've kind of been hooked up with us at coming to the fires, and you came to a retreat. And so, that's kind of... We got to go to a roping together.
It was a blast.
A couple months ago.
Yeah, awesome trip.
Yeah, that was fun. Mm-hmm. So you recently just retired from the Army, right?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, I got out of the Army after 10 years.
10 years. Mm-hmm. So how old are you now?
29.
29.
Yep. I'll be 30 this winter.
And you are happily married to Chloe, Miss Chloe.
Yep.
How long have you guys been married?
So we got married in October. So.
Oh, dang.
October 1st, don't let me forget.
Oh, yeah. Anniversary's coming up. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, she came with us to that rope, and so I got to know her too. And she's amazing.
Oh, she's out of my league.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I don't understand anything about that.
Me neither. We're like not even in the same sport. Like,
yeah.
Like she's like in the NFL, and I work in the muffler shop next to the stadium, you know?
Yeah, our wives are definitely punching down.
Yeah, for sure. Thank God for that.
Yeah, so, seriously. So, you grew up in Iowa, right?
Yeah. Most of my upbringing was in Southwest Iowa, small farm town. Our nearest city was Omaha, Nebraska. That was like 50 minutes away or so.
Oh, dang! So you really grew up a hillbilly.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I was just home not too long ago, and it's just an awesome little farming community. And
when's the last time you were home? Before last week?
Before that, it was maybe last fall.
So not too long ago.
No, I get back a few times a year.
What's it like when you go home? Because I know when I go home, it's like this surreal place of all these memories of like, because I don't get home very often to American Falls. So when I do go, it's like, I went to a rope, and Nick Merritt had a rope in this spring, and I went down there to it and went through the grocery store where me and my buddies all worked, and like took the cruise and ate at the hamburger joint we always ate at. And it was just kind of surreal. Like nobody knows who I am there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, what's it like for you?
It's like everything's the same, but everything's different. You know, I got a great group of friends back home. We were super tight all growing up and in high school and stuff. And it's always great to be back on like our old family farm. And my favorite food in the whole world is the pizza from the bowling alley in Harlan, Iowa. Right.
Oh yeah.
And so like every time I go home, we'll try and go get bowling alley pizza. Austin's home. And last time I went in to grab pizza, the lady that owns the bowling alley, she goes, "Oh, I saw on Facebook that you were home. I knew you'd be coming in." You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, one of those deals.
And did all your buddies stay in your hometown?
A lot did.
Part?
Yeah, a lot.
And like assume the family farm role and all that.
Yep. So every time I go home, I'll just be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna have a fire at our farm. Come on out. It'd be good to see everyone." So
nice.
Yeah, we're still all really, really close.
Nice.
So.
And so that's where you graduated from high school from?
Yep. So I moved there when I was 7. So I was born in 94 in Colorado Springs. My parents were 18 years old, dated for a month, broke up, then found out they were pregnant. Mm-hmm. And my dad had... at that point had gone to Nebraska to Cowboy on a ranch in western Nebraska. And, my mom was kind of a scared 18-year-old girl. And she started dating my stepdad while she was pregnant with me.
Oh, because your dad went to Cowboy,
Yeah.
and so
Yep.
okay.
Yep. So my biological dad was out in Nebraska, cowboying out there. And then my stepdad started dating my mom, and he was there when I was born. He was there from the beginning. And so actually, when I was born, he's the one who called my biological dad and was like, "Hey, man, your son was born."
How old was your stepdad?
All the same age. They were 18.
Oh my God.
They were 19 when I was born. Yeah.
Who does that at
Oh,
19?
Man. Oh,
and then has the humility to call and be
Right.
like, "Hey, just letting you know."
Oh, it was awesome. And I've always had an awesome relationship with my biological dad. Because after my stepdad called him, he came back from Nebraska and went to work for the mine in Cripple Creek, Colorado, and the gold mine up there. And yeah, so I've always had, like, I've been super fortunate. I've always had a great relationship with all my family. And
that's really, I think that's super unique, right?
Oh, for sure.
You had two dads, essentially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, yeah, they were young and, 19 when I was born and trying to figure life out. So, like, in the early days, my stepdad and mom in town, they had my sister. She's about a year and a half younger than me. And my stepdad, Kevin, the one you've met.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Oh, he's so awesome. He was working full-time construction, putting himself through college, a full-time student for finance, and had, 2 kids he was raising. And then my biological dad had married my first stepmom. They were up in Cripple Creek, and so I'd go up there on the weekends and stuff like that.
How far is that from where you were living?
Cripple Creek's about an hour out of the Springs. Yeah, up north. It's like just on the backside of Pikes Peak there.
So how was your mom and your dad's relationship?
Pretty good, really. I mean, there was obviously, there were, disputes and stuff in the early days, and I mean, it's just not an easy situation to navigate always.
At 19.
At 19,
I couldn't even balance my checkbook at 19.
Right, I still can't.
I don't mean either.
Yeah. So no, like they're really, really good actually. Like I remember when my biological dad married my first stepmom, him and my mom danced at their wedding, and my first stepmom got super jealous over that. Was not happy about that.
Yeah, but again, at 19, I'm just like thinking about my mental capacity at 19, and to have a child
right
with somebody you're not with, and like setting aside things for the better, for the child. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. No, I've got nothing but good stuff to say about all my parents.
Yeah. And so your stepdad really played a huge role in your life because he was there in the home. Mm-hmm. You grew up with him, right?
Oh yeah. And he never treated me any different than if I was his own kid, the whole time. So he was great. And to this day, he's like my best friend, and always fostered a good relationship between me and my biological dad too. And it was funny. So last year I had my my bachelor party. We did a fly fishing trip up an 11-mile canyon in Colorado in the mountains there. And we usually camp, but since it was my bachelor party, we got like an Airbnb up there. And I was just watching my biological dad and my stepdad play ping pong against each other, and like they're like giving each other shit, and just they're good friends, and it's cool. I've been really lucky to just have that support from both sides, big time.
Yeah, it's again, I keep coming back to it, but I just, your stepdad, Kevin, mm-hmm. at that age to say, I'm choosing this woman and her son, and to be there when you were born, and to walk with you for 29 years as that role, and not be, it's just such a picture of humility, right? Because here he is, like, day in, day out, your father figure raising mm-hmm. you. And then to be so gracious and understand the importance of your relationship with your biological father and supportive of that, and not let his ego or pride or like, I'm the one grinding out every
Right,
day, and then
right.
you swoop in on the weekends and go do fun stuff. And like, man, that's rare.
Oh man, like I hit the jackpot for sure.
Yeah, he's a solid dude, and it's obvious. It's obvious to all of us that got to meet him because he came to the retreat with you in
Yeah.
Jackson Hole, which was super cool.
Oh, it was awesome.
But it was obvious to see how much he loves you.
Oh, for sure.
Doc said he got a text from him like the other day. Just
Oh, really?
yeah, like so grateful and just telling Doc how proud he is of you, and
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I'm extremely lucky for sure.
So then you when you were 7, Kevin and your mom decided to move to Iowa.
Harlan, Iowa. So his side of the family, the Campbell side, my
Grandparents.
yep, they're all from Harlan, Iowa, southwest Iowa. And in 2000, it would be his grandpa, my great grandpa on that side, passed away. And so his dad and our family moved out there to take over the apple orchard just outside of town.
Wow, apples! I would have never thought Iowa and apples.
It's a little apple orchard in the sea of corn and soybeans. So it was super cool property, 2 spring-fed ponds, and we had over 22 different kinds of apples and thousands of trees. Did all the fruits and vegetables you can think of.
So you grew up working.
Oh yeah,
Like that was the family culture was.
I could drive a tractor before I could drive for sure. Yeah.
And you had a half sister that's a year and a half younger than you.
Yep. So all my siblings are half. So with Kevin and my mom, I've got a brother and sister that I mainly grew up with, and then with my biological dad and my second stepmom, I've got a brother and sister as well.
What are those relationships like?
So I didn't grow up with them, so
Sure.
not as close. But every time I'm in Colorado, try and go hang out with them and foster those relationships and trying to get closer. It's just we don't get to spend a whole lot of time together.
Yeah, and it is different when you, like, I didn't grow up with my sister either.
Right.
So our relationship post leaving home, we've had to do all the work to
Right.
get to know each other and be in each other's lives because we didn't grow up together, and it's just a different dynamic.
For sure.
What about your siblings that you grew up with?
Yeah. So my sister, her baby girl's just over 1 year old, and she's married to an Air Force guy. They're down in New Mexico doing awesome. She's great. And then my little brother he'd followed me to the Army, and he just got out of the Army a few months ago, and he's in flight school right now to get his pilot's license.
Like commercial? Mm-hmm. Oh, good for him.
Yep.
So life growing up on the apple orchard was just like a young man's kind of paradise. I would imagine, with the fishing and the water and
so
work ethic and
yeah, I mean, it was awesome community to grow up in. I mean, I remember when we lived in Colorado Springs, like if we wanted to go outside, we couldn't go outside without mom watching us and everything. And then we moved to Harlan, and she's like, okay, be back before the sun goes down. And we're just like, bye, just like, it was awesome.
Take off on your bikes and gone.
Yep, gone all day. And so super awesome community, super awesome place to grow up. And then I was always back and forth to see my dad and my stepmom in Colorado. My mom called me her frequent flyer mile child because I was always
on the airplane.
Oh yeah, from like 4 or 5, I was flying by myself.
No
back
way.
And forth, yeah. So I would get repeat flight attendants that like
knew you and like Austin, come sit over.
Yeah. So they took good care of me. They're on Frontier Airlines.
Nice.
So yeah, I was back and forth a lot, and up in Cripple Creek, we had horses. We had 8 or 9 horses.
Your dad did?
Yep. And and was really involved in the cowboy culture and everything. Because my family history on my father's side, they were like cow punchers from Texas, West Texas, Lubbock area.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I've got a family heirloom saddle from like the late 1800s. It's an old Texas, big old swell fork, cool saddle. And, yeah, there's stories of like my great grandpa and great great grandpa doing the cattle drives when they were like 8 years old, and so yeah, it was a big cowboy heritage on that side of my family. But then my dad's dad lost the ranch in Colorado and then had a heart attack a month later.
Oh, geez.
My dad was 13, so he said that like losing the ranch broke his heart. And so then there was a kind of a gap there where, yeah, my dad did some cowboying, but I didn't really get to grow up cowboying because moving to Iowa, it's all farming. There's no cowboy stuff. There's feedlot out there.
Yeah,
but
cow farmer stuff.
none of even the feedlots out there. It's not horseback. So, after that, I didn't have horses, all growing up.
But you did in Colorado, or?
So yeah, and in Cripple Creek we did.
Your dad always had horses around?
Yep, he did until he divorced my first stepmom, which was kind of a blessing all the way around on that one. I used to get really going back and forth between households. I would get like sick.
Oh, dude, me too.
I would get so nervous, like throwing up and stuff, and my dad didn't like know this stuff at the time, but she was like super verbally abusive. So like as a 5-year-old kid, she would like tell me that like my mother brainwashed me into loving her and all this stuff. And as a kid, you take that to heart. And so every time I would go back to my stepdad and mom, I would have like a meltdown, complete mental meltdown, like almost every time. Like I remember I have this weird memory of my mom on the phone with Kevin, and she's bawling, going, "Kevin, I don't know what to do." Mm-hmm. Like he's like just a complete meltdown. And my first stepmom wasn't good to my dad either. I mean, he told me a story the other day. He's like, yeah, we would get in yet another fight, and he's like, at one time I pulled over on the side of the road, took the keys out, threw them as far as I could, and then ran down the road so she couldn't catch me. He was like, it was not a good.
Dang.
But he wanted to do the right thing. Like, they were young kids, and she was a little older and had more money and was a little more established or whatever. So he thought he was providing like a more stable environment to me to grow up in. But she wasn't faithful to him. She was like mean to me. And so.
Yeah, that's difficult. The manipulation, because as a little boy, you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And it just lands in this like place inside of you that you can't reconcile.
Right.
Right. Like your little heart's trying to figure out the truth. Mm-hmm. And you have this voice in your head that goes against everything that you're feeling. But something about when you're little too is like believing adults, like the people that are supposed to be looking after you and taking care of you. So everything that adults say is super weighty and means something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was pretty tough for me, I think. And there's a lot of it I don't remember a whole lot. But I remember her. She would say stuff that would make me feel terrible.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I remember, and he my dad told me, he's like, I stayed there way longer than I should have because I wanted to be like the good Christian one and done marriage deal. And then finally I realized like God does not want me in this marriage.
Yep.
And it was good to put that behind all of us, I think.
I bet it was a big relief the first time you flew back out there when she was gone.
The weird thing is like when Kevin and Kathy, my stepmom and dad, told me that they were getting a divorce, I was all torn up about it. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss her. It's weird.
Oh yeah.
It's really weird. And so I saw a counselor when I was real young for that, and she said, and I was, I don't know, maybe 10 younger. I was younger than that. I was maybe 7 or 8, and so I was known for starving myself. Like I wouldn't eat. And I basically knew once it was dinner time, I would sit at the dinner table till 9:00 till they could tell me I could go to bed. Like that was like a daily ritual for me. And my parents told me later on that counselor said that was probably because that's the only thing I felt like I could control.
Yep.
Was what I ate. and I felt like I didn't have a lot of control over my situation, so I'd starve myself. And
isn't that amazing how we're responding to trauma and things all the time physically?
Yeah. I think it probably helped me out in the future in the Army because there's
lots of no meals.
Yeah, oh yeah, lots of, and I'd be like, no big deal.
Yeah, it's amazing how that affects our relationship with food. It certainly did with me and some of my stepmom stuff, but it's also, I remember that the trade-off, the handoff pain.
Oh man, I'd get so sick.
I would get a bellyache like a week before I was leaving.
Yep.
And knowing I was going to miss my dad, and then it was like just your stomach ache.
I'll still get it from something as simple as moving from southern Idaho to where we're at in McCall now. On the drive up, I was about to throw up. Just like simple little stuff like that, and it's weird. I don't know, but I'll get like physically nauseous from it.
Our trade-off was because my mom lived in Boise and we lived in southeastern Idaho, and my parents would do the switch in Bliss, and at this truck stop. Bliss is one exit, so it's just that little truck stop right on the right. I had a dream one time that I was in a wrecking ball, driving a huge track hoe with a wrecking ball on it, and I was demolishing
that truck stop,
which was interesting on a lot of different levels. But yeah, that place, my whole life driving by it, still to this day, I drive by that place and I just get a little hint of anxiety,
right?
Because it represented such a painful, deal,
right? We used to do a trade-off a lot of times in this little parking lot outside or in Garden of the Gods, Colorado, and I can't tell you what the stores are around it, but I know that parking lot.
Yep.
Like I can drive by it to this day, and the stores might be different, but I know that parking lot.
Yeah.
Just funny the stuff we remember
and retain inside our souls.
Yeah. Right.
So, what was your high school life like? Were you into sports or anything?
Oh yeah. I, did it all. Football, baseball, basketball, track a little bit. I'm not fast at all. So I was like the smallest thrower on the team because I couldn't do much else. And relatively successful in baseball for a while. And then in middle school, I busted my knee and like tore my MCL playing football. And after that, I didn't do any sports anymore, which I kind of regret because I really enjoyed football and stuff like that. And I was very active in band. I was a drummer, and we had a really good band program. We won one state and jazz band, marching band, all that stuff. Yeah, we were pretty good. And actually, after high school, my two options were like go to college for drumming or join the Army kind of deal. Like I was decent.
So you were very passionate about drums.
Yeah. No. Yep. I was.
Did you have like a drum kit in the garage or in the basement or something?
In the basement, much to probably my parents' frustration.
Yeah, because it probably wasn't like the electric.
No.
It was the full on.
Yep. Nope. An old $600 kit that I bought myself when I was in middle school, and
do you still have it?
It, as of last year, got gifted to a friend. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I had it for a really long time.
Yeah.
I just haven't had anywhere to keep it for a super long time.
Right.
But no, in high school, I had like a lot of insecurity issues, a lot of confidence issues growing up. I was bullied a decent amount when I was a little kid. Like I remember like right before we moved to Iowa, I stepped on a nail in my foot. And so I was pretty gimpy when we showed up to Iowa, and these farm boys just whipped my ass as a first grader. Yeah. But so now I was, I don't know, bullied an okay amount. And then I just didn't have a lot of self-confidence. Didn't think, and my parents were always like, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and I didn't believe any of it. And that's something I struggled with for a long time. And then in high school, I was in the party crowd, partied pretty hard.
How big was your graduating class?
109.
Oh, that's about like mine.
Yeah.
So about the same size
Yeah.
town.
The whole high school was about 400 people.
And so you kind of had this detour away from sports and into music.
Right.
And that lent itself more to in a small town. I mean, I played sports and I was still in the party crowd too, but.
Right. No, I was kind of the kid that could, there's all the little cliques and everything. I was welcome in all of them. Like I could go hang out with the jocks and then go hang out with the band nerds and then go hang out with everyone, and.
Do you think because you were insecure, you became like a people pleaser? Was that like?
No, I don't think necessarily a people pleaser. I always treated people with respect. I always tried to. And so I think I was just easy to get along with. So I didn't really know, a lot of people are searching for identity in high school and stuff, and I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. My freshman year, my uncle died, and that was like a really big blow to our whole family. He was 29, same age as me right now.
Dang.
Yeah, and he died unexpectedly, and me and him were super close, and me and him were the two that would like nerd out about like Army stuff and tactical stuff and everything. We'd go paintballing and airsoft, and he gave me the book Black Hawk Down when I was 10 years old, and that was the first time I read that book, and I just remember thinking like, oh man, like Rangers are like superheroes, dude. They're like, but they're all like, NFL athletes, and it's just not in the cards for me,
Sure.
But they're super cool. And he died, and that was pretty life-changing for me and a lot of people in our family. And he died the week before I was going to start high school. And a week later was the first time I'd gotten drunk. And I drank and partied harder in high school than I did in college, like for sure.
Just do you think to deal with the loss of?
I don't know. A lot of it is, I mean, there's a pretty good drinking culture around there, for sure. And maybe, I don't know, that's part of it. I don't know.
In the moment, you don't know why you do the things you do when you're 14, though.
Right,
either.
right.
You just find yourself doing certain things.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
what was the drinking culture in your family, in your house?
not a whole lot. Socially, not much. I mean, like, I definitely outdrank my parents in high school.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And they were, my poor parents, dude. They were strict and worried about me, and so they were like, no drinking, and I was just like sneaking out all the time and super rebellious and getting into a bunch. I sat in the back of a cop car multiple times in high school, but never got booked. Got pretty lucky there. But
for like cops busting parties and stuff.
Yeah, busting parties and stuff like that. And my mom broke her toe one night because she got a call from the sheriff's department on homecoming night, and she still blames me for it. And I was like, well, you didn't have to freak out. She's like, I thought you were dead. But just, and the cop was just calling her to tell her I was driving home because I was sober now, kind of deal.
Oh yeah.
And so no, I kind of put him through the ringer a little bit.
Did you get good grades?
Yeah, I was in like the talented and gifted programs at school and stuff, and kind of doing some more advanced classes and
because it was easier, or did you apply yourself?
I did not apply myself. Like,
so
I was like the epitome of not working up to my potential.
So you're just smart.
I wouldn't get carried away. They used to believe I was, and I did, like, I could do the bare minimum and get an A or a B kind of deal.
Oh dang.
And so but partying took priority. And then I kind of figured that I recognized I could probably use some discipline in my life because I could see myself going down a rougher path.
As you got like in your senior year?
Yeah, even like sophomore year, I knew like I could get in some big trouble. And then I'd always, like I said, always loved the military stuff, and so I started talking to recruiters. I talked to the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, and I ended up, you could join the Army Reserves when you were 17 and go to basic training between your junior and senior year of high school. So I did. I was like, sweet, I'll do that. I just wanted to like super motivated, wanted to get in the fight, you know. This was 2011, and like I just wanted to go to Afghanistan like now, and the recruiter, you know, he asked me like what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to fight. I want to be on the front lines. And he's like, okay. And then he made me a supply sergeant. So, so, which like that's just not their primary job, right? And
yeah. So, I just think it's amazing. I can only put myself in my own shoes between my junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, all your friends are working at the family farms and partying and bonfires and fishing and hunting, and you're at basic training.
I gave up a lot of my summers, which was the hardest part as a high school kid. You're like, I'm missing all these social events. You know, that's like a big part of your life back then. And I'd get super jealous about it. But I came back after basic training, completed my senior year, and then left for my supply job training. And obviously I kind of realized I'd been duped a little bit. It's not what I wanted to do. But I spent the next 2 years in a reserves company out of Fort Des Moines, Iowa, doing the supply deal. And I went
Was that full time, or is that
no?
the
That was
one,
reserves. That was like
so
similar to National Guard. Yep,
Okay.
Same deal. 1 week in a month, 2 weeks out of the year, kind of deal.
And that's when you went to college.
Yep. So I went to Iowa State for 2 semesters, and I just partied. I threw it away. I think I had like a GPA of like 0.7.
Nice.
Yeah, it was an expensive mistake. For sure. I paid. My dad's like, I'm not paying for this. You threw all that away, you know.
What was music still part of your life at that point?
Yeah, I was. I started playing the guitar more. I'd always played like campfire songs and whatever, and just a hobby. And then during my second semester, Congress shut down and took away tuition assistance for service members, and so the money that was in my contract to go to college was all of a sudden gone, and that kind of gave me the excuse to go active duty. I think I was looking for an excuse, and now I was like, well, my money's gone. I'm going to do this. So I went into the recruiter's office. I'm like, hey, I'm already a specialist. I'm like higher than a private, right? In the reserves, I want to go active duty, and I want combat arms this time. Like,
and you're like 19?
I was 19. And so I was like, you're not fooling me this time. I want combat arms. And they're like, well, here's this airborne infantry contract. And I was like, perfect. So I left. Infantry basic training is different than normal basic training.
So you had to do it over?
So I had to do basic training twice, which wasn't...
Did it suck?
Yeah. It's just like basic training's hard the first time because you're learning all the basic skills that it takes to be a soldier or whatever. Well, when you already know all the basic stuff, now you're just going through all the crap again. So you're just like, okay. But then right after basic training, again...
Where did you do basic training that time?
So that was at Fort Benning, Georgia. And then I hopped on a plane, hopped on a bus, went 5 minutes down the road to airborne school to learn how to jump out of planes. So did that. You have to have five jumps to graduate. And on my second jump, I fractured my ankle. And
oh no!
And I had a third jump that night, and I was like, dude, I was on the plane crying. I was like,
wait, you didn't tell him?
No, because I was in this program to go try out to be a Green Beret, and I was like, they'll kick me out if I say anything. And so I was on the bird. I was so scared because I was like 100% positive on this jump I was going to shatter my leg. You know what I mean? But I was like, I just can't quit. So I was like in tears and ended up completing the next, the 5 jumps to graduate.
On a broken ankle.
Yeah, I didn't know it was broken. I thought it was hurt, but I figured it was like a sprain or something to heal. Well, so then you go to completed that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Do you like jumping out of airplanes?
I'm afraid of heights. I most of the stuff I did in the Army, I was like overcoming fear for 10 years. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you're afraid of heights, and
I ended up becoming a jump master. Yeah. Like,
Well, I bet you instilled confidence.
well, that's the thing. Like later on in my career, when I was a jump master, you know, I'd go up to privates. It's like their first jump, whatever. I'd inspect their parachute. I'm like, "You nervous?" You know, like, "Roger, Sergeant." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. You're gonna be fine." Then I like walk away and my legs are shaking. You know, you're just like trying to hide. Yeah. So, and that is part of the job of the jump master is to instill confidence.
Yeah.
So you're just like, "All right, dude."
You got this.
Yeah.
How much training did you have to do before your first jump? Like, what's that?
So they do, it's 3 weeks long. They do ground week, tower week, and jump week.
How do you prepare to jump out of an airplane? I mean, at some point you just got to jump out of an airplane, right?
So, like mentally, I honestly, I got to the point where I'd just be like, there's a lot of stuff you can tell yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't come this far, I'd only come this far. Or
Yeah.
like, you know, all those motivational stuff. But in my mind, I just kind of started saying, you know what, dude, fuck it. And I would just go. And that, honestly, those 2 words got me through a lot of crap.
I bet.
I was like, you know what? All right, let's go. And so, yeah. And so, yeah, you do the ground week where they, you know, you learn how to do the parachute stuff, fit the parachute, all of that. And then tower week, you're jumping out of a tower that is like on a zip line. And then you have your jump week. And,
do you pack your own parachutes?
no.
They have people that's their only
that's their
job.
That's their job. Parachute riggers is a separate job.
That's a lot of pressure.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't, respect to those guys. And I would always make the joke when you're like picking up your parachute. I'm like, is this the one? You know, They're like, you're good. Okay. You know,
Like, how far are you jumping? Like
1,200 feet ideally. Is because this is static line jumping. It's not skydiving. So static line jumping, your parachute is attached to a cable, which is attached to a line, which is attached to a cable inside the airplane. So once you jump out, it automatically pulls your parachute.
Oh,
and they're not steerable parachutes. You can kind of make it drift slowly one way, but you're not steering anything. And I mean, a lot of times when you're doing like rigged up for a combat jump, I mean, you can have 100-pound backpack between your legs and all this stuff. So like, it's just easier to just be able to just jump out and your parachute will deploy and you'll have a reserve. But
so they're pushing you out pretty fast because I would imagine you all want to land relatively close to one another.
Right. A jumper a second's usually pretty good. And it also depends on like how big the drop zone will be. They'll come up and tell you, hey, this drop zone's this long. We have 10 seconds of green light. Now, if we have 20 jumpers, they'll be like, all right, we'll get half you out this time. Then we'll race track and come around and get the other half out. Kind of depends on a lot of stuff. But
I mean, and you got all your gear, like you said, your packs and your weapons. And
in airborne school, you're jumping a lot what we call Hollywood, which is with no gear. You're just learning how to jump. You'll do like 1 or 2 combat jumps, but with a super light backpack, just so you can go through the motions of everything.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
So
you get your 5 jumps in.
Yep. Got my jump wings. Feeling proud. I'm a paratrooper now.
How's that affecting your confidence at this point?
You know, a little better maybe. A little better, but still major like insecurity issues. Like still didn't. So I went on to go to the tryout for the Green Berets, and my ankle kept on bugging me. And they do
right after your 5 jumps?
They shipped me up to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You graduate airborne school, ship me up to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and they do a preparation course. So I went through this preparation course. It was pretty hard. It was a really good preparation course. They're really setting you up for success to go to the actual selection. But after that, I could not walk on my ankle because you're doing a lot of rucking with heavy backpacks and a lot of running and stuff, a lot of high mileage stuff. I was limping bad, and it was like 4 days before the actual selection would start. And I finally saw the medics, and they're like, "Yo, yeah, your ankle's broken." So
did they ask you when you did it?
No. They're just like, "You can go try it if you want." I was like, "No, I don't think I can't walk." So I ended up spending like the next 8 months in their medical platoon there, and just kind of wasting away, to be honest. And
what do you do for 8 months?
I drank a lot, you know.
Because there's nothing, like they're not putting you at a desk probably making you do paperwork.
We had 2 formations a day, one at like 8 in the morning and one at like 2 in the afternoon, and that was our work day. So, and then there would be details like, oh, hey, we need this lawn raked of pine cones, so we'd be out doing that kind of stuff.
Did you have surgery or just
no, just let it heal. Just let it heal. And finally after like 8 months there, they're like, okay, you're going to go down the road to the 82nd Airborne Division. So the 82nd Airborne Division is a big paratrooper division that's right there at Fort Bragg. So I went and spent the next 3.5 years there in the 82nd.
What were you doing?
I was a machine gunner. So I carried what was called the 240 Bravo machine gun on a gun team there. It's a 27-pound machine gun, and the ammo's super heavy. So got a lot of practice jumping heavy weight for sure.
Oh, so you're jumping out of airplanes with all this now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so now we're jumping with like 100-pound backpacks and a 30-pound machine gun,
And the 82nd Airborne, that's like famous kind of.
Oh yeah, they're well known. World War II, Vietnam, done a lot of really cool stuff.
And how many people are in the 82nd Airborne?
I think it's like 18 to 20,000. It's a big division.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's somewhere in at least the high teen thousands, but so it's a lot. And then it's broken up into brigades, and the brigades are broken up into battalions, and each battalion's like give or take 900 to 1,000 people big.
What's the brotherhood like at this point for you?
So it's good.
Is it new all the time as you kind of keep going down this road?
For sure. You're creating lifelong friends. Like I talk to people to this day that I was from the 82nd. But I still I didn't have any confidence in myself yet. I thought like, maybe if I can survive this time in the infantry, I'll get out and then, go pursue something else. I didn't think I could do much more than that. And then I got this opportunity one time.
Wait, what'd you do in that 2.5 years? Just practice?
Yeah, a lot of training. So
right in North Carolina?
I never deployed with the 82nd. So, we would do training jumps into Louisiana, jumps.
So you are traveling?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes for training events and stuff,
but never out of the United States.
I got to go to England. I ended up. So this was actually like my life-changing moment. There was this competition the 82nd hosted to see which battalion had the best squad in the whole division. You do all these army tasks or whatever. And
which involved what?
Oh man, running long miles, rucking long miles, doing, tactical medical stuff, doing shooting, doing jumping and packing, all these soldiering tasks. And the first day of this competition was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. I was on my battalion's team. There was a team of 8 of us to do this thing.
How'd you get selected for that?
I have no idea. Well, actually, I do. So I had seen this movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah.
And it changed my whole attitude on my life. I was like, I'm just going to start saying yes to stuff, even if it's scary. And I started doing that, and it changed my life, dude. I ended up becoming a police diver and a rescue diver and an underwater crime scene investigator, all because this one dude came through our company and goes, any of you want to scuba dive? And I'd never done it before. And I was like, yes, I just saw this movie, yeah.
Are you serious?
And I joined this rescue department, and
within your battalion?
No, this is a volunteer civilian rescue department in North Carolina.
Oh, that had nothing to do
with the Army. And I would spend my summers doing rescue diver body recovery and crime scene investigation stuff, and all thousands and thousands of dollars worth of training certifications this department paid for me to get, all just because I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do it anyway. And
from jumping out of airplanes to scuba diving,
that's
crazy.
It was a fun time. It was super fun. But then they had asked me if I wanted to go to Ranger School, and Ranger School is a super intimidating thing, and I was like, yes, and but because I had said I was willing to go, them putting me on this team was kind of like my tryout to see if they were going to invest in me to even send me. They're like, well, maybe if he makes it through this, we'll send him. And so the first day of this competition is it was
Did you train?
No,
it was just what you've been doing.
I had spent I had spent the last month in a foxhole in Louisiana smoking cigarettes. Like I was in terrible shape for this thing. And because we had just got back from this huge training event in Louisiana. And after that day, our lieutenant, he had his Ranger tab. And he's the only guy in the squad with his Ranger tab. And he goes, guys, like today was harder than any day I'd ever had in Ranger school. If you made it through today, you should go to Ranger school. And that was like a light bulb moment for me going, maybe I am capable of doing something cool, right? And we ended up winning that competition like crazy. And then that afforded us the opportunity to go represent the Army in England and compete internationally. So we went to England. We trained with the British paratroopers, and then we went and competed in what's called the Cambrian Patrol in Wales, and it was brutal, but one of the coolest things I'd ever done. We ended up walking away. It's this huge like reconnaissance and patrolling exercise that's like known for being really brutal.
And what are you doing in the games?
So that was like, you would have these, what they call lanes, these tests scattered all throughout the Brecon Beacon Mountains. And your movements in between the mountains are very far and you're carrying a lot of weight. So you'll go be like, okay, we have our medical test, and you'll walk 12 miles to your medical test up and down these mountains. Then you're like, okay, now we have our chemical test, and you'll go and like do all this stuff with chemical gear and face masks.
You're being judged or timed.
And you're being evaluated on all of it, and then they take your score at the end of all that. If you make it, and you can't get, you're land navigating in between each event. You have to make sure you don't get lost and all this stuff. And we ended up walking away with a gold medal on that. And it was super crazy. We had kind of our 15 minutes of fame. We were in the Army Times and like,
dang, dude.
Yeah. So I was like, I started feeling like maybe I can do some cool stuff. And now like this train's rolling, right? And I wanted to.
And you're competing against a ton of different countries.
Oh,
right?
like the Colombian Special Forces were there. The Prague Czech Republic SWAT team, like all these different like cool units all throughout the country, the world, Pakistan.
Did you interact with any of them?
Absolutely. Yeah, they were super cool. We were really close with the Brits. Us and the Brits got along great. Cause I mean, it was like a competition to see who could drink more,
Right.
And your country's pride was behind that one. So you had to win, a lot of cool countries and a lot of cool people. And then, when I get back and I'm like, well, I kind of want this train to keep rolling. And when I got back, I had a really great mentor enter my life, and he was at my bachelor party actually too, and he grew up in the Ranger battalions, and the Ranger battalions is a special operations unit, whereas Ranger school is a combat leadership school. So you can have your Ranger tab, meaning you went to Ranger school, which anyone in the military can go to that school and get the tab, but if you get the Ranger scroll, it means you were in the Ranger battalions, which is a special operations unit. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And I got to go to the Special Forces SEER School, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. So they teach you how to like survive in the woods and then run away from people and resist like interrogations and escape out of all sorts of cool stuff. So it was like an awesome school.
Wait, how long was that?
That was 3 weeks, I think, as well. And it was a gentleman's course up until the final FTX. Then like they smack you around and do all that stuff, and learned a lot there. I think it was like 9 days we went without food because we went in the winter. We went in February, so there was like nothing to eat out there.
So you're just surviving on.
I found wild onions, and we found like a roadkill deer leg on the side of the road that we split up between like 8 of us.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so gnarly.
So that was like a long time without food, but I was like, I've been training for this my whole life, like I could go without food. So did that, and I was like, well, that was awesome.
How many guys were in that school?
For my class, that was 88 people, and that was a big class. 87 guys and 1 girl. And then that class is continually going because it's part of the course to become a Green Beret is that in that class. Well, then I got back and I went to air assault school. It's just another badge.
Is it like a qualification?
Yeah.
Or is it like you pass fail?
So it is like a pass-fail thing because they want you to have the training, whether or not you are like very successful in it or not. Because like it's for people who their job puts them at risk of being captured or having to evade or anything like that. The most important thing is that you have at least a basic understanding of kind of what to do in those scenarios. It was a heck of an experience, though. It was really, really great school.
Well, I'd imagine it's putting yourself through something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It really gives you a good understanding of what the human body and your emotions are capable of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I'm sure there's a lot of times in some of those scenarios where you're like, this is freaking hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely miserable sometimes. Like there'd be people having mental breakdowns there and stuff, and it's just like it's pretty miserable. But now I'm starting to I started to gain some confidence, and started to be like, okay, well now I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna try out for the Ranger Regiment, and so I did.
What's tryout mean?
So they have to make it into the Ranger Regiment. There's an 8-week program called the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, and it's basically there's 2 phases. Like the first month is they're weeding people out, and then the second month
is it physical?
Oh yeah,
like it's
big time. Yeah, very hard. We started with 160 guys and graduated 22 people in our class, so we had like a super high attrition rate, and a couple weeks before I started, I slipped a disc in my back, and I don't know if I'd ever been in so much pain, like having to do this stuff with my back the way it was.
Wait, you did that whole course, that class?
Yeah, because I would wake up like a half hour before everyone else and just warm my back up every morning and stretch and do all these like warm-ups and we'd do this stuff, and apparently I'm a crier, dude, because like I would be in so much pain, and I was like, oh my gosh. But ended up, and then like the second half of that is they're like, okay, now we got a good group of guys we know aren't going to quit on us. Let's build them up and start teaching them Ranger skills. And so super cool shooting courses and a lot of, awesome stuff. Graduated, got, you get your tambourine that signifies you're a Ranger, and you get your Ranger scroll, and you think you're pretty tough. And then you show up to your Ranger battalion and you're just treated like dog shit.
Really?
They're like, you think you're cool? Everyone here's been through that. Like, you're a private, you know what I mean? And
so there's just this pattern of you starting at the bottom.
I've started at the bottom a lot.
Over and over and over, which is probably by design.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
One thing I've realized is, like, the coolest people in that world have started at the bottom and been through the most humiliating stuff to get there than anyone else. Like, they're willing to go through the shit, and that's why they're where they're at. Mm. But then, then I showed up to the Ranger. That moved me up to Fort Lewis, Washington. And Washington is beautiful. Western Washington is beautiful. And I deployed within 6 months of being there to Afghanistan my first time. I was the Carl Gustav gunner. It's a 84 millimeter recoilless rocket. So it's like a recoilless rifle. Sorry. So it's like this. It's like a rocket launcher that shoots these massive rounds, and you can use it for anti-tank applications or anti-people or anti-structure. There's a lot of like uses for it, and so I carried that for my first deployment.
So what was practicing with that like?
Oh, when you shoot that thing, you feel the overpressure all over your body. I used to kind of describe it as like getting kicked in the nuts all over the body, like all at once. Like if you shot it too many times in one day, you would get we called it getting goose drunk. You'd see guys with like drooling and stuff because they're just like punch drunk, just like, all right, I might be concussed.
How do you not flinch? Do you just train your body through reps?
I would try. So in all the shooting courses I'd been to, they would always tell us, you want start pulling the trigger back, and you want that round going off to be a surprise to you. So you are training, because otherwise, you do that.
Yeah,
you lurch forward or whatever, and so you always want that fire process to be a surprise. And so I just always try to think of that. It's like keep my sight on the target or whatever, and then it goes off when it goes off. And I had actually deployed with a broken jaw because I broke my jaw it was about 6 weeks before we left.
How'd you break your jaw?
Oh man. So
Here we go.
Yeah. I was dating this girl, and we'd had a party and for one of my buddy's birthdays, and at the end of the night, everyone's been drinking like quite a bit or whatever, and there's only a few of us left. And I went inside to grab a drink, and I looked out the window and I saw one of the other guys there and her making out. And so I waited for her to go inside, and then I just walked right past her and didn't say anything. And I went out, and this dude was like, "Hey, Cuddie, what's up?" And I just punched him in the face. And then his friend hit me with a beer bottle and broke my jaw in 2 places.
Oh, dang.
And so I hit the ground, and immediately they're like, "Are you okay?" You know, they're like, and I was like, "You guys knocked my tooth out," because I felt this huge gap in my teeth. So they're like trying to help me find my tooth. And, you know, I was just kind of like, I'm out of here kind of deal. And the next day, my roommate picked me up. He was one of my groomsmen, awesome dude. Me and him were just getting to know each other at that point. He's like, "What is up with this dude?" You know? And the next day he's like, "Dude, just go to the hospital." I was like, "I'm not missing this deployment. I've been in the Army for 5 years and haven't deployed. Like, it's time, you know, I don't want to miss this deployment coming up." I ended up going to the hospital. They're like, "No, your tooth isn't loose. It's just your jaw." It was like a straight, clean break, like right here. And then a spider web break kind of up here.
Oh, no.
And so I had to relearn how to chew. I lost a bunch of weight. Basically, I went over to Afghanistan in like terrible shape again. And, but we did that first trip. We were part of a strike force there.
So I would imagine that they're not flying you over there for no reason.
Right. So we were...
Do they like keep guys like you over there all the time? Mm-hmm. And so...
They did, yeah.
It was just your turn to go over there?
Right, so there's 3 Ranger battalions, and the Ranger battalions would just trade in and out.
And how long is a deployment? So
the way we did it was, of the 3 Ranger battalions, each battalion would be there for roughly 4 months. So you do 4-month deployment, 8 months back. And it's been like that since like 2001, 2002. Okay. So every 8 months you'd be deploying. So when
it's your time to go, you don't know necessarily what you're going over there for.
You usually have a pretty good idea, like training up for it.
Are you training for a specific, like?
So there's Ranger's main mission is raids, direct action raids, and airfield seizures. So like, and that would be like jumping on a foreign country's airport to take it over, and then opening that airport so we can land our planes. But in Afghanistan, it was mostly raids. So what they asked us to do is we would go after high value targets. So I always called us like glorified delivery boys. Like the powers that be would be like, "Hey, we want this guy," and we would go try and grab him and bring him back.
So when you're getting ready to deploy,
mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's a mixture of excitement and like nerves and all the things.
I was pretty much only excited.
Because you've been training for so long.
Right. My parents were really nervous.
Yeah.
I was so pumped.
And at this point, you're with your boys, right? Like.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is now that I'm in like the special operations community, I'm going over there with solid dudes, like really good dudes.
They've all been through the mix.
Right.
They've all earned their spot to be there, which creates mm-hmm. a culture of like the brotherhood, right?
Right. Yeah. Like everyone there's definitely a much higher level of motivation there than there was in the 82nd.
Well, the pool's a lot smaller, from 20,000 to.
I think there's 3,500 Rangers, like all in all across the country. So it's a pretty small group. And that was like our bread and butter. So I did two deployments as a strike force doing raids and stuff. And then by this time I had been promoted to sergeant and moved over. I tried out for our battalion's reconnaissance section. And so I went over to the recon side of stuff. Now my mission isn't direct action raids, it's gathering information. So we would do, basically there's like tactical reconnaissance, which is your commandos with face paint walking through the swamp, and you go like look at a target through, big optics and stuff like that, and gather information that way. And then there's special reconnaissance, which is more of like your surveillance type stuff. Like think of like cops in the 70s doing stakeouts and doing undercover work, which that was like the funnest thing to me. So that third deployment, we grew our beards out, grew our hair out, we wore dressed up like the Afghanis, wearing traditional clothes and stuff like that. And we'd go do undercover stuff in the city. I don't think I'd ever had more fun in my life. It was awesome. I loved it.
I want to jump back to the first time you go over there. Like, how do you fly over there?
So military air, usually on a C-17, which is nice because
is it like in the movies, like you're just sitting in a jump seat? Like,
so yeah. So
is it cold and loud and
yes,
the way I picture it?
Yeah. But I loved it because we'd all be in our little like regular seats in the beginning, and then as soon as we hit cruising altitude, everyone would roll out their bedroll, and then it would just be bedrolls lined up, and then you sleep. So it'd be 9 hours to Germany and then 9 hours to Afghanistan.
And you do it straight through?
So, depends. Sometimes yes, and then sometimes we might be in Germany for a 1 or 2 day layover, which we would just move in like these temporary barracks they have there.
At this point, are you good at just sleeping anywhere?
Oh yeah.
Is your body trained to like shut off and just sleep when you can get it?
I don't know if it's like the same with everyone, but I can definitely kind of sleep in most places. I almost kind of taught myself, I guess, on accident to sleep when I'm real nervous. So like even like going into my first like combat mission in Afghanistan as a private, I slept the whole helicopter ride there until they were like, okay, we're 1 minute away from the target. And then I woke up and did my stuff. Yeah. Because I was so nervous, and I was like, okay, I'll just fall asleep.
So you fly over there, you fly to Germany, fly over, you're with your boys, land in Afghanistan, and you're an army barrack, I would admit.
Yeah, so there was a camp over there that had a lot of like special operations. This is on Bagram Airfield for the first deployment, and then my second trip I was at Camp Scorpion, which was later renamed Camp Taylor. But yeah, Bagram, we had like nice hooches in nice facilities, and then we would work nights. So you'd sleep the day and then wake up, eat dinner.
What time of year was it when your first deployment?
Most of mine were like fall into winter.
So is it cold?
Oh yeah. Afghanistan. So we were at like our base was like at the same elevation as like Colorado Springs.
Oh dang.
And we're surrounded by mountains. It's very mountainous.
Snow?
Oh yeah, in the winter. Yeah, I've done missions in 2 feet of snow. And yeah, you're flying all over the place, and it's way colder up in a helicopter up there.
And at this point, you're not jumping out of airplanes.
No.
You're not. No parachuting.
I never did any combat jumps.
Right.
Nope. I only did training jumps, and so we did most of the stuff. We would take a helicopter too, sometimes vehicles, but mostly helicopter. Land the helicopter around their compound or whatever, run out and do the deal, or we would land the helicopter if we wanted to be, have more of a surprise, because they can hear helicopters from a long ways away. Then we would do what's called a Y infill, and you'd land like 10 kilometers away and walk in, which doing that at 10,000 feet in the mountains, you're smoked by the time you get to the place, and then you have a full night's work ahead of you.
When you first get there, like, are you working out? Are you going?
Oh yeah.
Like, what is your time like when you're not on a mission? What do you do?
You're working out. You're playing Xbox. Like my war experience was super spoiled. Like I know a lot of guys that were out on patrol and stuff all the time, living like super primitively, but not me. Was super spoiled with. We always had good places to live and eat and good food, good gyms. So yeah, you would like wake up, eat breakfast at like, 7
At night.
In the evening. If you had a mission, you'd prep, go do the mission through the night, come back, shower, go eat breakfast.
You only worked at night, right?
Mostly. For at least that first and second trip. We would try to utilize, the advantage of night vision the best we could. So we'd, wait till the moon's not very bright and go at night and stuff like that.
When you were practicing before you were deployed, did you practice at night?
All the time.
Yeah, because you're
absolutely.
And are you still shooting that same rocket launcher thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you're well equipped to do that at night.
Oh yeah,
that's how you practice.
Every training event we do, for no matter how basic or advanced it is, you do it in the day and you do it at night.
Mm.
Yep, for everything. You have to be just as proficient at night as during the day.
So on your first deployment, when you went over there, how many days were you like hanging out there before you went on your first mission?
Oh, I don't remember. We had gotten settled in. Honestly, I don't remember. But yeah, we can get into a routine, go do training if you don't have a mission or whatever.
Do you remember what it was like when they finally said, "Hey, we have a green light"?
Yeah, me and my roommate, the guy who went and picked me up previously, we're like, hell yeah, dude, let's go. We are excited. It's time to put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, all these skills that you've acquired over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I was very ready for sure. Nervous, then the nerves started hitting. Right, like, okay, well,
how long in advance did they tell you before you actually like took off?
So a lot of it, sometimes maybe a day or two in advance. I wasn't involved at that time when I was a private. I wasn't involved in the planning process. So they'll plan these missions, sometimes a day in advance or whatever. So it's less for me. We just have to make sure all of our gear and stuff was ready.
So
at that level,
triple checking every single little thing.
Yep, making sure you got fresh batteries in all your equipment. Make sure your ammo's good. Like, you are just ready to go for whenever they say it's time.
So they say it's go time.
Mm-hmm. They'll be like,
did you sleep that day? Do you remember?
I don't remember, to be honest. Probably.
But you got on the helicopter and went to sleep?
I went to sleep, yeah, because I was feeling
How many
pretty
of you?
nervous. So we were in, for that specific one, like my very first time, we had 3 Chinook helicopters, which are like the double rotor, big long ones. You can fit 30 guys on there. And we also have like an Afghan partner force and stuff we're taking with us, and dogs. And so that first one, we just landed 3 of those guys around their house and knocked on the door.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah.
They heard you.
They heard us coming.
Were they running?
No, they were. So that one, they had, they shot 3 RPGs at my helicopter before we landed. We landed like right next to them, and they knew they were coming, and they were shooting. And so these helicopters, they have like a 240 and a minigun on them on each side. So the machine guns on one side of the helicopter just started rolling. And I'm like, oh, okay, now it's real. And like it got real fast.
I'm like, my armpits are sweating just thinking about it.
No,
I mean, your adrenaline's probably through the roof.
At that point, yeah. This is my very first time, so I'm like, this is all new to me, and I was like,
how did they not hit you? They just aren't good at
those machine gunners on the helicopter did their job. They were awesome. And
do those guys is that their only job?
In that specific scenario, yes. Like, as we're going to land on a target, then yeah, they are doing security of the helicopter.
They don't get off the helicopter.
Nope. They'll fly with the helicopter and go do all the other tasks that they have.
Did they drop you off and take off?
Mm-hmm.
They did.
Yep. That's how it always is. They
because they don't want the wrong people getting a hold of those, probably.
That, and they don't want to lose the birds. Like those birds are really expensive. So yeah, they'll leave and then they'll pick us up in the morning.
So there was 3 of them.
For that time, yeah.
Oh, they are leaving like till the morning.
They go back to base, and but then over our heads we would have an air package usually of AC-130, and maybe some Apaches and some so we had plenty of air support. Like, like I said, we were very spoiled. And those all like the birds in the sky, they would be able to see people on thermal imaging and then tell us where they were, so that we didn't get surprised or anything like that.
So the machine gunners are just lighting that place up.
Yeah, and then I felt the bird land, and then as we went to run off,
and you put your night vision, turn them on. Obviously.
Made sure everything was good, made sure there was a round in my rifle, everything, and my rocket launcher was good.
Oh, you have two?
Because I have my rifle and the rocket launcher.
What rifle?
Just 5.56 M4, like an AR-15 type of setup. And the guy right in front of me, like we get off the bird or whatever, and the guy right in front of me he just turned to the right, and he had a machine gun, and he just turned to the right and started spraying, and I was like, oh man, like it's real. And
did you know where you were supposed to go at that point?
Yeah, but the brownout was the helicopters kick up a lot of dust, and so the brownout was so bad no one could see where we were supposed to go. So that's when you look at your GPS and just follow that kind of deal, or just run to cover if you're. And which there was, they were shooting at us for sure. So like you're like, well, let's move.
Oh my gosh.
So,
man.
But I also never had a bigger like adrenaline high. I was like the most fun I'd ever had, and we had super successful deployment.
Did you fire your weapon at all?
That night, no. I did on future missions for sure. That night, we took cover in this hole, which turned out it was a sewage trench. So we were
nice.
we were like, yeah, let's move. And then my buddies went and cleared through the compound. Since I had the rocket launcher, I was on.
You kind of stay in the back.
I was making sure no one came up to. They would put me on what they call a high avenue of approach, like guarding. Like if somebody's going to come try and help them, it'll be probably down this road, and I'm there to make sure they stay away. Kind of deal was my job for that specific situation, and no, it was a good mission. We got everyone we came there to get, and left with the POW. And actually, that POW had been shot a couple times, and our medic was out chasing another bad guy, and I was like the backup medic, so I got to treat real world, gunshot.
Oh, you have medical. You got.
I did, yeah.
Does everybody or
everyone's got a basic level at least, yeah,
to fix their buddy or themselves?
For sure. Yep. They're pretty good about that. The military's pretty good about making sure guys, kind of know what to do in those scenarios.
So you had to bandage this dude up that got shot?
Yeah, everyone gave me crap because I
saved his life.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't say I saved his life, but I patched him up, and that was a good experience. And then, yeah, the rest of the deployment was kind of like that, and some missions would be dry holes where nothing happened, and some wouldn't, and you got to. Never went through anything too crazy, but got to kind of be there and do that deal. And so did that deployment, came home, had the second deployment to Afghanistan, kind of doing the same job.
So you were home. Job. So you were there for 4 months.
Yep, came
and
home.
Then flew home and had 8 months.
Then I went to Ranger School, which is that combat leadership school. So then, and then I was promoted to sergeant and I was a sergeant on my second.
Where'd you go do that at?
That's at Fort Benning, Georgia, Dahlonega, Georgia, and Florida. There's 3 phases of it: a Darby, a mountain, and a swamp phase. And
And what'd you learn there? Just more leadership stuff?
Yeah, it's more like.
Was it tactical?
It's very tactical.
Oh, okay.
It's like you get like 1 to maybe 2 hours of sleep for a night for like 2 months, and you're fed 2 MREs a day, but. I lost like 35 pounds doing that. Yeah. Came out pretty skinny on that deal.
So they're just putting you through.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is like a different, like when you come back, are you going back with the same guys?
Yeah, I did. I went straight back to my platoon, and actually I met them in Afghanistan. My platoon had gone to Afghanistan while I was in Ranger School. So I finished up Ranger School and then flew straight out to Afghanistan to meet up with them over there.
But you have a different role now.
Yep. Now I was in more of a leadership position. And so for that, then I was leading the anti-tank team for that deployment as the sergeant there. Had a good deployment there, came home, and that's when I went over to the recon side of stuff and went more into gathering information and stuff like that. absolutely loved. The
That's like
intelligence
some
world.
spy crap, right?
It was I was never thought I'd have the opportunity to do stuff like that, and I really enjoyed it.
So when I remember when we were on our trip and you were telling me a little bit about this,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in this huge Army base, right? Or
Yeah.
it was not just Army, right?
Yeah, no, lots of all the different branches and other countries and all that stuff.
And your crew was like rolling in there with beards, and everybody
Yeah.
else had to be clean shaven. Like, there's no way you can't feel like a badass, dude, because everybody there knows that you're like doing some crazy stuff.
There was other bearded, like there was a Green Beret team there as well. They were on their compound, and they always have beards and stuff too. And then we had our deal was like, once we got over there, they're like, hey boys, like this trip's different. Once you're over there, you're not Ranger anymore. Like you're a Ranger secretly, but like now you just work for this program, and it's a different deal. And it was awesome. It was super great. We got a lot done. We're super productive. Made some of the best friendships. Guys I still keep in contact with, Afghanis I still keep in contact with, because this was the first trip I was able to really dive into Afghan culture and really learn about.
Because you're out walking around in the streets, right?
Oh yeah, we'd be cruising around Kabul all the time, and
Were you nervous ever?
by that point, not so much.
Are you carrying a pistol or?
Yeah, oh yeah, we always went with armed somewhere. But by that point, I'd done enough missions to where a lot of the nerves subsided, and you're like, okay, it was just another day at work kind of deal. And
But how many would you go out with when you were doing that recon?
oh, there were times where it was just me and another guy, like in a car out around the city, and you just got each other's backs, and you're kind of depending on your disguises to make sure you're good. And
Like that would be, to me, that seems way more vulnerable and risky than going with rolling with all your boys
It
to a
can be.
particular mission.
it can be for sure, but we had everything set up to where we were. There's a lot of redundancy in your training plans and your plans and your execution and like your safety procedures. Like if we ever got in a tight spot, we could hit a button and they'd send helicopters. You know what I mean? So like as Americans over there, you always have kind of support behind you.
But the goal was to look native, right?
For sure. Yep. I mean,
But dude, you're like 6'3".
well, you know what? The Russians went through there in the 80s, and so there's
And populated.
And they populated. So there's some taller Afghanis over there. So no, it actually worked out. I have a Afghan driver's license with a whole name and persona and everything, backstory. It was a lot of fun.
Did you have a translator or?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't speak the language, right? So we always usually traveled with a translator, and those guys are awesome. We developed awesome friendships with those guys and really close friendships with our partner forces. And
You would have to, because your life really depends on them being good at what they do, right?
For sure. And the translators that we had all had their top secret clearances. So they were like very vetted guys. Most of them lived in the States now.
Oh.
They were like, oh yeah, my family's in Connecticut,
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. So like, yeah, they're super solid dudes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get in any tight spots
Yeah, for sure. We had,
that you can talk about?
yeah, I'm like trying to choose my words, but for sure we had gotten stuck, our car stuck in the middle of like a really bad Taliban neighborhood in Kabul one time, and it started to get a little nerve-wracking. I was talking to my buddy who he's from Lubbock, Texas, and we're just both trying to look like Afghanis, and it got to the point to where like, hey, we're about to Alamo up in this building and call for help, because all these Taliban dudes started like surrounding us, and we had a translator with us, and we were able to talk our way out before they knew we were Americans, because he was like, our translator was like, do not speak English, whatever you do, don't let them catch you speaking English.
So you're just like trying to push the car out or something?
We were trying to push the car out. We had a tow strap out, and we had like 15 like neighborhood kids like trying to help us pull this car out. Well, then these kids started climbing in the car, and we've got a bunch of stuff in the car. And so I'm like trying to pull kids out of the car and shove like weapons and technology and stuff like under the seats and hide them with blankets and stuff. And then we ended up being able to we carried bribe money with us a lot. So we bribed one of the guys to pull us out, and then we hauled ass out of there.
Dude.
But
that had to be nerve-wracking a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we were hauling ass through the city to get back. It was kind of awesome, though.
I guess, I mean, I can't even put myself in your shoes because to do all that training, like, I would imagine at this point, back to the confidence thing, like,
yeah,
you're pretty capable and confident in your skill set and what I mean, to be starved down like you were in training, it's kind of like running with leg weights on, I would imagine. And then you take them off and go to your thing and you're like, yeah, I got this.
For sure. And that's what our training cycles, we usually viewed deployments as a break from the training cycle because you train really hard. And so like deployments were kind of a welcome like break.
Yeah, because you're sleeping and eating better. And
yep. And I was over there with just awesome guys, you know. So I never really had many worries. I was just surrounded by good dudes. And that's kind of been like a constant in my life. I have unknowingly just surrounded myself with awesome people pretty much most of my life. And I think that's why I've gotten to do some of the stuff I got to do, because I mean, they say you're the sum of the people you spend the most time with, right? And I've just been like super lucky to be with awesome people for a long time.
Well, it's because of who you are, too. Kings are attracted to kings, man. And the thing that I picked up on you immediately was your humility. Like, most guys that have done and seen the things that you've done and seen walk around differently than you do. And from the moment I met you, I'm like, there's this very kind, humble young man that really wants to learn different things. And now, you know, you're wanting to kind of get back to your family roots and in the cowboy culture. And that's why you are continually being around the right people. That's because of who you are.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. So I've, as I mentioned before, I've always struggled with the self-confidence deal, and then you got to find balance, you know, because then you start doing some cool stuff, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe I went too far on the cocky side here for a little bit. So like dial it back and keep your confidence, but don't be a cocky asshole because nobody likes that guy.
Yeah.
Right? And
there's some of that in that community.
Oh, for sure.
Just like the cowboy, like anybody that's peacocking all the time.
Right.
Because their identities and how good they are at something.
Right. And so, no, I loved my time in the Army. It changed my life. And the friends I'll have forever, you know what I mean? And then I met my wife there too. You know, I actually met her dad, and me and her dad, because he's an old Ranger, Green Beret, and he jumped into Panama, and like the dude's a stud, right? And me and some friends were out at a bar watching a country band in Roy, Washington one time, and we met those guys out there and just became friends. And
is that how you met Chloe's dad? Was it at a bar?
Yeah. Me and him became like just buddies.
Is that a place where Rangers hang out?
Yep. Yeah, because it's not far from the base up there, but it's like out in the country. And yeah, we were at a bar there. There's a group of, you know, older men in front of us, and they heard us kind of bitching about work, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are Rangers?" And we're like, one of my buddies was drunk, and he's all like, "Yeah," you know. And then these guys were like, "Oh yeah, we were Rangers and jumped into Panama and did all this stuff." And my buddy's like, "Oh, tequila? You guys want tequila?" Yeah. And we just kind of hit it off. And so I started hanging out with him a lot, and he had horses, and that's when I started riding again. So that's when I started riding, and me and him were friends for a year and a half, almost 2 years before I met my wife. And so then I met her, and
you're still enlisted.
Yep. And we ended up, me and her were just friends for like another year and a half. And then it was during COVID, they had kind of shut a lot of stuff down, and we didn't really have much to do. So I would spend a lot of time out at their place and got to know her even better. And then, yeah, we started dating, and it was like I'd never had to ask one of my friends if I could date his daughter before, you know. But the joke is now that it was arranged, and he'll be like, yeah, so, you know.
He was setting it up from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would imagine that her dad, knowing the deal and what you've been through, what kind of character you are, that was probably pretty cool for him.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome because, like, we were good friends, you know, not just, like, acquaintances. And then, yeah, no, it works out. I love my in-laws, and we hang out all the time. We would go, there'd be times where my wife would be like, where are you? I'm like, I'm hanging out with your dad. She's like, come home. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it was great.
So help me understand, you spent so much time getting to this certain level,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see you light up when you talk about the recon stuff.
It was,
Why get out?
So
Why walk away after getting to that level?
right. So there was a lot going on and this was COVID times, and the military changed drastically. It wasn't quite the same military that I had joined, and then also with that, the Afghan war ended, and a lot of my peers and I are very frustrated with how the war ended and everything went down, and just kind of the writing was on the wall. And
did that change with administration?
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of military policy that changed as well that wasn't a huge fan of, and I could just kind of see the writing on the wall and started to feel more like, you know, maybe it's time for the next chapter. And then me and my wife were getting more serious, and she was like, I don't want you to be in the Army anymore. And so, no, I made the decision. I think I think it's time. And so,
how long did it take you to make that decision where you knew, like, I'm done?
I mean, I think over the course of a few months, I was just like, you know what? I'm not super happy with everything. And it's not, I just wasn't. And also, like, the Rangers had kind of lost a big portion of their job. So now you got all these guys with nothing to do, but a lot less. Afghanistan was over, and there's still other stuff out there, and Rangers are still out there doing lots of other stuff for sure. But that was a big part of it, and I wanted to experience something else too, and so we got out. I got out of the Army, and me and my wife went to work on a big ranch outside of Colorado Springs. And this company, they actually manage ranches in Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming. So working for them, I got all summer, me and my wife got to ranch in all these states. So everything from Texas to Wyoming, we got to see. And it was a super awesome introduction to ranching and cattle. And they let us rope at a lot of brandings, which, like, for being new, that's really cool of them.
Yeah.
So got to rope quite a bit. And it was really, really great place to learn. And I learned a lot from them on the stockmanship and just managing a large scale operation like that. And then I left there and was just helping my buddy out in Texas, who was managing a place outside of Amarillo. He's an old Ranger buddy of mine. And while I was there, I had looked up online that there was a Martin Black clinic in Jackson, Wyoming. And I was like, oh, I'm heading up to Washington during this time period, that I can do a short little, what's the word I'm looking for? Short little
detour.
Detour, thank you. And hit that clinic. So I called the ranch, and they're like, yeah, we got you down for the clinic. I'm like, yeah, I can pay the fees. And they're like, well, then it's going to be this much to stay here for, like, one of our cabins. And I was like, I can't do that. I was pretty broke. And I was like, well, can I camp out? Can I bring my bedroll and camp out? and the manager was super awesome. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, camp out in our shop, then you're out of the weather, and you could use a shower in my office. Like, he was super great. It's like, cool, sounds good. So we hang up, and he calls me back like 5 minutes later. He's like, why don't you just come work for me? He goes, I can tell you know horses. He goes, we need another person, and I'll give you the week off of the clinic, and you already have a place to stay here. I was like, well, let me ask my wife. And she was like, yeah, sounds like a good deal. So I went up, and I worked for a few months up there in Jackson. Super awesome ranch up there. People were great. And then after that, their season ended. I went down. I worked in Bruno, Idaho for Martin's son, Will. And me and Will have ended up becoming really good friends. I worked for him for quite a bit. And him and Holly have just been great to my wife and I, and have become super close friends. And then when Pat Puckett got hurt, I went down and helped him out with building his bunkhouse and rode some horses for him for a while. And then it was after that I left Pat's, got married, and then went down to kind of stayed down in the Bruno area for a while after that. And that was all through the summer, and then now we're up in McCall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any regrets leaving the Army? I mean, you kind of already said it, like your mind was made up.
There are parts I miss about it all the time, absolutely, and I still, even if it wasn't for the Army, I would still like to do more of that kind of work, because I mean, I devoted a long time of my life to getting some of those skills, and I don't want to just completely leave it behind.
Yeah, your whole adult life.
Yeah,
you've given to it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I definitely am still pursuing like job opportunities and that kind of stuff. And now, like the hardest part is trying to combine my two worlds, I think. And but I think it can be done, and so I'm actually working on starting a business that would be kind of doing that right now. And
what does that look like?
So that would be more of like providing like horsemanship training for a military application or law enforcement, if you will, because military units can use horses and mules to infiltrate and exfiltrate in and out of places where they can't get vehicles, and so that's becoming a decently popular skill or a skill people want, and we kind of saw that little niche gap in the market, and we're gonna start up something that might be able to help fill that gap.
That's awesome, and you've got to do some cool stuff since you got out too to utilize your skills.
I've done some contracting stuff, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of still get, as my buddy likes to say, you still get to touch the magic a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's always fun to touch the magic when you can, and it turns out my buddy Will, we were in the same platoon in the Army. He was just there 15 years before I was.
That's crazy.
So he was a Ranger back in the early 2000s, and so we really like when I first went to work for him, we had no idea. And then you get to know him, you're like, no kidding.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing one of the things I appreciate about you also is, again, the humility. Like, that's not what you lead with,
right?
Ever,
right?
Like, that's why I think you continue to get these cool opportunities with people that are really good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Is because of the humility you bring to the table, and it's like I didn't know the extent of what you did until we really got to know each other. And I think that's, I don't know though, maybe at the level that you were an operator at, that might be the norm because of all the training and all the things that you've done. It sometimes is like, it's the amateur rodeo guys that brag about it and talk about it.
Right.
And, you could meet Trevor Brazil at a gas station and he probably wouldn't lead with.
Right.
I'm the king of all conflicts.
Right. No, and my thing is, that was an amazing part of my life, but like being a veteran isn't my entire identity.
Yeah.
Like I'm still just Austin, and I want to do all these things, and that was an awesome, but I'm not, I don't walk around and be like, I'm a disabled vet. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
No, I had these really great experiences and I learned a lot there. What's next?
Yeah.
And so now like I am kind of back at the bottom right now, trying to.
You're used to that though.
Yeah. Trying to, it's not without its struggles for sure. The difference is this time I don't have the steady paycheck from the Army.
Yeah.
So whole new respect for the civilian side of things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I feel like I know you well enough to ask you this. Emotionally, how do you feel you landed?
So,
as you begin to understand more your story and how some of the things that you've experienced shows up in your life and marriage and...
Right. Yeah. So, no, it's a good question. I'm still exploring all that. Like I said, I'm young. I'm probably the youngest guy you've had on here, I think. And so I've got a lot to figure out, but I definitely had a little bit of a temper getting out, especially if you ask my wife. She's said she thinks I have PTSD. I don't think so. I think so. That year we transitioned out of the Army, it was a tough transition in some aspects because it's a complete culture shift for me. I had to relearn how to talk to people. I had to be not quite so blunt and maybe honest and stuff. Just be a little more tactful about how I said things, and like I said, I was never disrespectful. I just always valued honesty. Like by respecting you, I'm going to be as honest as I can to you. But I kind of had to adjust that a little bit because people don't always like or respond well to that. And then we also, huge transition. And when I was in the Army, me and Chloe had a really nice, beautiful house on a lake, and like we were adults, you know what I mean? You're like, we're doing this good. And then we moved out and started bouncing around all these bunkhouses, and I'm not making the money I was, and finances start to become a worry and all this stuff. And we were living out of our vehicles for a little bit, and then you're like, this is a whole new kind of stress. And then we also, I lost, we lost 4 close family members that year. Like most of them unexpectedly. And that was a lot of, it was pretty tough on the family and tough on everyone. And so there was a lot of stress going on. And that is a big part of the reason I started coming to Wild Courage, is I've realized about myself that I'll shut down. Like I'll get numb and just shut down. And my wife should be like, no, don't shut down. We need to talk about this.
Don't go.
And I'm like, I'm done. And so I've gotten better about staying through those times and actually talking it out, instead of just leaving and coming back later or whatever. One thing that was kind of eye-opening to me at the retreat, which the retreat was amazing. I've never felt like such an outpouring of love and like support from all the guys that were awesome. Super awesome. Met Grant Galler there. He's super awesome. During one of our outbreak fires, when I told kind of my story, our group leader Steven, awesome dude. I'd mentioned that I don't feel like I've been emotionally there for my wife. Like a big part of the reason I'm here is because I want to be a better husband, and I understand I'm not emotionally there for me. And she's told me, she's like, I'm craving intimacy from you because you're like not there. And so that's something I'm really working on. And he kind of enlightened me and told me, he goes, humans aren't capable of selectively numbing emotions. You either numb them all or you don't.
That makes sense.
So like if you're numbing these emotions affiliated with trauma or negative stuff, you're also accidentally numbing your love and compassion and stuff.
Dang.
And so that was a huge takeaway for me. And I'm going, man, okay. Because I felt like I can deal with hard situations pretty well emotionally and kind of deal with trauma and stuff pretty well. I don't feel like I have too much of an issue from it. What I've noticed my issue is in the giving, the intimacy and the, being vulnerable. And that's what I'm not good at. So that's been a big part of what I'm trying to work on in this section of my life, for sure.
Vulnerability is what creates safety for our wives. And for them to fully be seen and heard, they have to have a safe environment. When they feel like there's walls,
right,
protective walls, and they don't feel intimate with us, because we're created for intimacy. And then when you have walls set up and they don't feel it, it's what they're longing for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, again, amazing that at 29, being through the things you've been through, recognizing that I'm willing to go on this journey because not only does your wife need intimacy, but so do you.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on it. My deal is I'll get pretty hyper focused on tasks. I want to get stuff done to provide, right? I want to be able to provide all this stuff and set up our life the way we want it and how we want to raise a family. In doing so, I'm neglecting the emotional side.
Yeah, because as fixers, as we compartmentalize, we really like to check boxes, and you've spent 10 years of your life, your whole adult checking boxes. Like, yeah. I got to triple check my batteries and the parachute's going to be like every single thing, and all your wife wants is you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And a safe place to enter into intimacy with you. That's like, I remember when my wife and I were going through all of our stuff, and she's like, I don't care about the big house. I don't care about any of that. I want you to be honest and show up authentically. And I was so scared. That was the one thing I couldn't give her.
Right.
And so that's the invitation in all of this, right, is to work through, why do I show up the way I show up, or why don't I show up the ways that I don't show up, that this beautiful woman needs me to show up this way. And I
for
can't.
Sure. There's lots of times where she'll be like, well, let's just go take a walk, or let's go sit down by the lake and do nothing but just sit there and be with each other. And I'm down there, I'm like, oh, I got to do this, and I still have this to get done. And it's like, but then later I'll be like, oh, dummy, that's the good stuff right there. Like, that's the stuff that matters. And you're forgoing that stuff in order to set up future moments of that. Well, don't neglect the present moments, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one. I'm trying to constantly
That's hard.
Myself.
That's what's tough about being a hard charger, is we miss the little moments that add up over 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then people wonder why they drift away and drift apart.
Right.
And that's, again, the invitation is to be present and listen to what our wives are actually saying and what their heart's desires are, because oftentimes it's not what we think it is. But for me, in my own ego, I thought I knew best what my wife's heart needed more than she did. And so I was going to task all these things out, because then I'm like, well, once I do all this, then she'll be happy. That's not the case, right?
Yeah.
It's in those little moments, if we can get present with them and listen, to what they're actually saying. And the more healthy we get, the more we let our walls down, the safer that place feels for them. Man, that's where the good stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where healthy relationship really can go.
Yeah. And for a long time, I've been nervous that if I get my, emotions in check or become more vulnerable, then I won't be able to deal with like the kind of trauma involved with that other lifestyle. If I still want to do that kind of work and you see, hard stuff sometimes, I wouldn't be able to deal with it as good. But I had actually heard from another guy who spent, years in that lifestyle. He had gone through the same kind of deal and then got help for his mental health, and now he's like, I can deal and process with all of my emotions and still do this stuff with clarity. It's just you're looking at it through a much clearer lens in a different way and more understanding. So
well, I think, if you look at suicide rates amongst veterans
mm-hmm.
and divorce rates,
Very high.
This is why, right? It's like that emotional pain, unprocessed pain. It seems like there's no other way out.
Yep. That and purpose. I think purpose is such a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like when I feel like I've gone through, since I've been out, I've gone through like short periods where I feel like I don't know what my purpose is right now or whatever. That's when I feel down for sure. And, but when I have something I'm striving towards and I'm driven, I'm going and doing it, I feel much better. And I think purpose, I think a lot of people or veterans, or it doesn't have to be veterans, just anyone who maybe can't find their purpose or whatever. That's when it's, it's like, well, what's my why? What am I doing? Why am I waking up today? What am I going to do? And, I just feel like that's so huge to keep on.
Yeah, it's worth it, because on the other side of the fear of it is so much hope and healing,
mm-hmm.
right? And the journey with your wife and also finding your purpose. Man, you're setting yourself up to be an incredible dad, because the stakes get bigger if you don't address some of these things, right? Like, I know your heart because I've got to spend a lot of windshield time with you, like,
yeah.
And you and Chloe are going to be incredible parents. The more work you put into this area, the better of a dad you will be. Which then, like me and my friends, you get to start talking about your grandkids.
Yeah.
And the legacy that you're building emotionally and mentally and spiritually and physically is like, oh, I'm going to work on this. And the beautiful thing about this journey is it's so redemptive in so many different layers, because it's not just you getting better, but it changes your marriage. It changes the dad you are or going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's generational, because so many guys are coming from brokenness, and if they don't go on the journey, it's just replicated over and over and over again. And then we have these divorce rates, and prisons are full of men that didn't have dads,
right,
that weren't around because it was too scary for them to look inside themselves and go on the journey of, how do I deal with unprocessed pain? Because we all have it.
mm-hmm.
It's all relative at some point, right? And some people have been through harder things than others, but pain's pain. And that's why I would also ask you, like, we have different belief systems, you and I. And Wild Courage is largely faith-based in a God. And that's not your particular belief system. And I've never asked you this before, but I'm super curious why. I could see you coming to a fire, but not only to come to a fire, but multiple fires, and then to come to a retreat where kind of where our belief system is and aligned,
Mm-hmm.
and you still showed up. Why?
Oh, lots of reasons. And I mean, so I was raised in a Christian household, and like my position right now is I've got doubts, and stuff, but I'm definitely not atheist by any means. I guess I just have trust issues a little bit, and that probably bleeds into the spiritual thing.
But you seem to trust. You seem to trust us,
right? Absolutely. And no, I am very respectful and reverent to religion. I love it. And everyone surrounding Wild Courage has just been like, the quality of people is incredible, like just absolutely amazing. And I don't know, it's tough to kind of pin something down.
These are kind of loaded questions, but do you think that partly because you've never felt judged in these circles, right, with around the fires, or I'm just trying to, because you're not the only person that's showed up again and again and again that didn't maybe share the same exact belief systems that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a testament to what I hope we're building. For sure.
No, so, and that's the thing too, is the authenticity that you see at the fires and the retreats and stuff is only possible because there's zero judgment either way. Like, I'm definitely on my faith journey, searching. Like, I'm now or near done. I'm having a hard time putting my faith in any one thing right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm just researching and stuff. But there's guys and for me, there's a lot I've done I'm ashamed of, right? But you can go speak about that openly at a Wild Courage event, and there is no judgment. And it's pretty incredible in that sense, and it's very inviting, right? Because you can go to an environment that's masculine and authentic and genuine, and that's where you get. That's what really changes people, is you don't have to put up any walls or put on a different face to be there. You can be exactly who you are, and it's all good.
Well, dude, I'm really proud of you, and it's an honor to call you my friend and brother. And what if there were any veterans out here, and I asked Pat Puckett the same thing when he talked about his story of Vietnam and coming home, which I'm sure you listened to.
Absolutely.
What advice do you give the guy that's been out for 20 years? And what part B would be, what advice would you give to the guy who is about to get out or just got out?
So at the most basic level, I used to, back when I was in the 82nd, I used to seek out special operations guys and be like, what's your best advice? And 9 times out of 10, they would look at me and just go, just keep walking. And I'm like, well, that is stupid. What does that mean? And then when you find yourself in these situations where just keep walking isn't easy anymore, you're like, I get it. If I could just put my right foot in front of my left, now it's time to put my left foot in front of my right. If you just keep doing that, and then you get to the top of this hill, then you're like, okay, well, I'll just do it. Maybe I can get to the top of the next hill. Well, after a couple hills, you look back and I just climbed a mountain that I never knew I was going to be able to do. That would be if I'm in any position to give any advice, it would be just don't give up. Just keep pursuing your purpose and just keep walking, I think is what I'd say.
That's good. Well, I'm excited for your future. I'm excited for what you and Will are putting your hands to, and I think that you guys are going to crush it. And I'm super stoked again just to be your friend and get to know your wonderful, beautiful bride more, and just keep going, man. Your humility is going to win, again, like it has served you for the last decade. And now that you're on this side of things, it's no different. You just keep, like you said, keep moving forward and walking and keep being curious, and you're going to do amazing things. And I'm really happy for you, and I'm glad that like I said, you're my friend. Thanks for coming on here and doing this, bro. Appreciate you.
Oh, yep, I appreciate it, Jeremy. And you know, me and Chloe think the world of you guys, and yeah, honored to be able to call you a friend, and that I was able to come on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to roping some stuff with you
me
next
too.
spring.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on, brother. All right, thanks, guys. Adios.